Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the review show. This is episode 98. You're almost at 100. I am so excited. We'll be talking about that in just a sec. But for now, my name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined on the opposite side of this computer screen by Melissa Wilkinson.
Yep.
Melissa.
Hello.
What has your week been like? What have you been up to?
I just slept most of yesterday. I thought I would give myself a lazy day where it's like you can lay in bed and watch YouTube videos as long as you want. You can take a nap later. I never take a nap.
Hell yeah, that sounds good. What was something that you watched?
I watch a lot of cooking videos. Today I watched these weird sports retrospectives. This is from the guy who did 17,776. He has these other YouTube videos that are done in the same style, like with all of the pixelated images and like the zoom ins around Google Maps, telling real stories of weird sports history. So I watched a couple of those. I watched some Try Guys, a variety of things. Yeah. Oh, I love a YouTube deep dive. Yeah.
I'm not necessarily one for a YouTube deep dive, but I did also take a lazy day yesterday. I was in bed like 95% of my day. It was great. I watched some TV. I ended up rewatching the end of season 1 of Peaky Blinders on Netflix.
Okay.
It's good. I've seen the first 2 seasons already. But it's been a long time, and there's 5 seasons out right now, so I'm gonna start rewatching all of that stuff. And of course, I read the comic book that we're here to talk about today.
Me too.
Because if you guys did not know, this is the review show where every week we pick a different story to talk about. Could be a comic book, could be a movie, an anime, manga, something else. We read it, watch it, do what we have to do, come back here and talk about it. This week, X-Men Season 1. And no, not the TV show, not the cartoon. This is a comic book, a graphic novel by Dennis Hopeless and Jamie McKelvie. And it kind of acts as like an alternative take on the origin story of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Like a more modern take on all of that stuff. Now, I know you've heard of this one, Melissa, because we both at some point have listened to a lot of Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men. Which is a fantastic podcast. This is how I know
anything. Yes.
Right. Yeah, like all of my X-Men knowledge comes from them. It's great.
Yeah.
Which if you have not checked out their podcast, go listen to it. It's a blast.
It's such a helpful resource.
It really is. And actually, I would say start from episode 1.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah, it's they're basically going through the continuity and explaining the X-Men as it happens. So if I mean, you're welcome to jump in whenever, but if you know nothing about the X-Men, or if you have not tried out their podcast, you might want to start from episode 1. That way you can just go from square one, like I did. I think I binged like the first like 180 episodes of their stuff because it's so good. They know what they're talking about. Well, let's see, Melissa, what's your history with the X-Men?
X-Men the movie was the first DVD I can ever remember watching. So it has a special place in my heart for that reason. Like, my older brother buys a PS2, brings it to our house, And we're like, we have to go to Blockbuster. We've heard of DVDs, but we have not personally watched one in our own homes yet. This was the first DVD device that we had access to. So we go to Blockbuster. DVDs are in a separate section from VHS tapes at this point.
Yeah.
We pick out X-Men. We take it home. We're like, the sound is so clear. The visuals are good. We had a lot of fun, like changing it into French and looking at DVD menus.
Amazing. Remember when DVD players were like $600?
Right. Like
Yeah.
The PS2 I think came out in like 2001.
Something like that.
My dad was like waiting for it to get good before he bought any kind of DVD player. But my brother was like, I want this new game machine.
March,
so this is the first
2004 is when the PlayStation 2 came out.
No, it isn't.
2004. No, not.
That's false.
March 4th, 2000. Sorry about that. It's early in the morning. Okay. Numbers is not my mutant superpower. It's 12:15 in the afternoon. It's not even in the morning.
I've seen all the X-Men movies. I enjoy them. The only X-Men comic I read God Loves, Man Kills.
Okay.
And I did read like a Wolverine season 1 graphic novel that I had bought for my older brother for Christmas per his request. And I read it before I gave it to him.
Gotcha. I wonder if that was Wolverine Origins.
It was something like that.
Okay. Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, I remember watching all of those X-Men movies in theaters. Man, they're so cool. I remember growing up on the cartoon, the X-Men cartoon.
I didn't watch a ton of the original X-Men cartoon, but I do remember a lot of X-Men Evolution.
Yeah, that was the one that I watched more of, but I did catch the original 90s one when it was on. And stuff like that. But X-Men Evolution was a big thing. I remember I had a friend who was super into that show, and he was into like nothing comics related at all except that show. And I was just like, James, why are you into this? This is weird. You don't like this stuff. But yeah, good stuff. So I have heard of this book, as we said, from Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men. From what I remember, it's actually been a long time since I've listened to their podcast, but they always kind of recommended this book as a like, hey, if you want to get into modern X-Men, but you want a like an origin story and you don't want to go back to like the original comics, this is one you should probably check out. It's super short. It's only like 100 something pages. So you can write it in like an hour and a half-ish at the most.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. There's no complex storylines or what's going on with all of that stuff, because X-Men does get really complicated.
Yep.
But yeah. So I've been wanting to pitch this on the show. I think I might have once before. I don't remember.
Huh. Yeah.
But here we are. And this is also the first X-Men comic we've ever covered on the podcast.
Wow.
I know that I've pitched God Loves, Man Kills before. I know we've seen some of the X-Men characters in other things that we've covered. This is the first X-Men proper stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Synopsis. Do you want to help us out with the synopsis for this one?
Yeah, so it is approximately contemporary times. There are smartphones, etc. And Jean Grey's parents send her away to this boarding school for her to deal with her telekinetic powers. And she's real crabby about it. She's like, I don't like regular school, but I'd rather be there. I'd rather do calculus than have to suddenly be a superhero. So the story's mostly from her point of view, getting to know these other mutants. It's her, Beast, Cyclops, Iceman, and Angel, the original Classic Five. It's just them getting to know each other and settling into life there and learning the danger room and going out there and fighting Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Right, yeah.
So a little bit of superhero antics, a little bit of teen emotional drama.
Yeah. And just an introduction to all of these characters and who they are. So like we said, it's pretty straightforward with that stuff. There's like one villain that I didn't recognize, and that was Unis the Untouchable, I believe is how you say his name.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
I don't know if that was new or not, because again, so the X-Men for me is kind of a corner of the Marvel universe that I've stayed away from just because there's so much of it, and I'm just like, one day
it's daunting.
There.
Yes,
it's really daunting. So I haven't heard much about him, if that's a new character or not. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's basically a school drama. They get there, they meet the jocks, they meet the nerds, they you know all of that stuff. Girl likes boy doesn't realize it. Other boy also likes girl. There's a big fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good. What did you think?
I liked it. I think this fit in with all the stuff I already know about X-Men.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I think I appreciated having the additional introduction, and I think this would make a very good introduction piece for somebody else who's even newer to X-Men and really has no concept of. I think there's like a guy with eye beams. There's a Claw Man. When does the Claw Man show up? When is Ian McKellen in this, etc. Yeah. I will say, I wish there was, between the two major facets of the story, I like the teen stuff more than the superhero antics. Like, it would keep cutting to all of these fights, and I'm like, I already get what everybody's powers are. I get who they're fighting. Can I get more of just the five kids hanging out in like the Xavier mansion and like getting up to nonsense? I want that, please.
Yeah, I know in its history, X-Men has focused on multiple things, and yeah, there have been X-Men titles that are like, hey, here's the soap opera aspect. Yeah. Who's crushing on who's sleeping with who, what are classes like, stuff like that. Or then if you want the more superhero stuff, you can go do all of that and find all the swashbuckling and stuff that you want in that stuff. So I think there's X-Men comics out there for everyone.
Definitely.
Or whatever you might want. But yeah, that it was interesting because it starts in the middle of a fight, and it's just like, I would rather be doing calculus. And
yeah,
it's like, okay, this is a weird place to start. But yeah, it does kind of jump back and forth between the like high school drama and then these superhero fights, but it never focuses on these fights. Like, there is not a big bad. I mean, there is kind of one at the end, like hey, here's the confrontation, here's the big boss fight that this book has been leading up to. There is kind of that, but even still, it's not what you would typically get from a like volume 1. We're leading up to a fight with this character, right? So I liked it. I think, yeah, it's super short. I think you can hand this to someone who has no knowledge of the X-Men or someone who does, and it's a super simple, like, hey, here's just an origin story of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. Well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we can dive in and talk a little bit more with spoilers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, housekeeping. Ladies and gentlemen, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts, in case you did not know. You guys can find more information on all of those on our website, thewhatnauts.com. Let's see. I made an announcement on Crossplay, which is one of our other podcasts that I will make here. We will not be recording Crossplay. Or did I say I made the announcement on Crossplay?
You made it on the captain's log.
Yeah, that's what I meant. We will not be recording Crossplay. And I mentioned that on the captain's log.
Yes.
One of our co-hosts, Ignacio, has been studying abroad here in the United States, and he is going to be traveling back home to Chile to kind of be with his family and avoid all of the craziness as much as he can here in the United States, because we are right in the center of coronavirus central. So, safe travels to Ignacio. Please be safe. Wash your hands. Go do all of that stuff. Let's see. If you guys like what we do here at the Whatnauts and you want to support us, patreon.com is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. You guys can get access to the live streams of this show. You guys can get episodes early. At the $3 tier, we have some exclusive content. Melissa and I just created some D&D characters on an episode of the Captain's Log that was exclusive to Patreon. That was fun. And last but not least, we want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Christine, and thank you, Sam, for helping us out and keeping the mics on. We love and appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Yeah. House has been kept. Let's see if my spoilers graphic works. Hey. That worked. That worked good. It worked fine. I think last week it was stuttering, like I just did there, and and it was like, yeah, I don't really want to come to work today. So here we are.
I don't know if this is the sort of thing you could spoil. I guess if you know anything about the X-Men, you already know what's in this book.
Kind of. It's nothing new. You might not know every detail here and there, but you know the basic story, I feel like.
Yeah.
Just like most of... Well, I mean, you'd be surprised, because I've heard stories of people taking their friends to go see... like Batman versus Superman, and they do the origin story of Batman, and they're like, oh, they killed his parents? No. And it's just like, really? You didn't know that? Come on, guys. Like, oh well. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. If you know all of that stuff. You mentioned starts with Jean Grey. Let's talk about her.
Yeah.
For a bit. How did you like her? Did you not like something about her? What's up with
I
Jean?
liked her fine. I thought all her outfits were cute.
There you go. That's something to read the book
I'll say,
for. Fashion.
Right? Yeah. Oh, like it's not super specifically stylized to modern day. Like she's got one of those beanie hats on that are popular, but it's not anything like super duper. This is contemporary. This is the Forever 21 fashion of the year this was put out. So there's nothing that really marks it as it is now. It's just approximately in the last 10 years or so. And it'll probably look contemporary for the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. I would imagine so. Yeah, I liked her. I thought she was a good kind of in character, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, she's the one we follow, because she is also kind of the odd one out right now as the only girl there.
And
so
also it seems like everybody else has been there for a while. Like it seems like the previous 4 are kind of, I don't like it's, you're not able to tell who's the next newest one after her. Yeah.
They've been
like
there
they're all
some
kind of
time.
settled in, and they all get each other's vibes already.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's kind of coming into this school for gifted youngsters and discovering it all for the first time, and she's not really sure what to expect. And she walks inside this house / school / mansion that she's like, this is really strange. I don't know why my parents dumped me off here. Why can't I just go study calculus with my friends? And she walks in, and there's this really awkward sequence, like right at the start, that I just don't understand, because she's like standing still in the center of this like foyer in this mansion, and her luggage is like a step or two behind her or something. And Cyclops, Scott Summers, comes walking in from around the corner like he's just about to walk past her and like move on and not say hi, except he trips on her luggage, which is this like giant like roll on like, and it's just like, God damn it, Scott, how can you not see this? You're walking, you're not even running. Like
I think I would buy that from Scott, that he's running like, he's running imaginary battle drills in his head and is focusing on these details and doesn't completely misses large luggage right in front of him. And he like falls on top of her, but it's not like sexy or extremely goofy. She's just like,
well, she's the one that makes it awkward, kind of sexy.
Yeah. She's like, there's like a joke I could say here. Like she kind of alludes to it, and then he's like, ah! It backs up and runs away back to the danger room where he lives. Yeah,
she's like, I can think of two jokes, a lame one and a dirty one. And he's just like, oh my God, oh, sorry. And then he goes off to do whatever he's off to go do. And then I don't remember who she runs into next, but she starts to meet the other students. She meets Bobby Drake, Iceman. She meets Beast. She ends up meeting Professor Xavier, who's like, oh, good, you found our other misfits and miscreants and whoever these kids are.
Exactly how he sounds. That's how he talks all the time.
Oh, great, you found them already. Yeah, so he's like, hey, I'll let you kind of get acquainted and settled in and just kind of wander around and figure out where things are. And we don't actually get to see much of the classes that they do, because again, this is the first class of X-Men, the first like graduating class. So I don't know how much of an actual school they have really started yet, besides just like, hey, let's do some training exercises and like maybe I'll lecture you from time to time on something.
I wanted more information about this. I wanted like, who is there any other staff here besides Professor Xavier? Like, are you going through real classes? Like, does he stop and say like, well, you should know something about Napoleon, so today is like real school lesson day, and then tomorrow we're doing training drills. This is what I liked about the movies, especially the first one, where I think it is portrayed more school-like. Especially in those first three, it's more school-like, and this is hitting me when I'm in like 5th, 6th grade, so I can relate to it, and I'm interested in it. Like, how does this other weird school go? This is in Harry Potter times also. So I just want every variant of weird school, and I didn't get enough school from this. Like, I want to know their classes. I want to know, like, who cooks dinner? Like, how do you all live? Do you guys have, like, a movie theater in here? Do you have video games? What's the curfew? I want all of the domestic details of this.
Because Iceman mentioned that. He's like, I've beaten every video game in here. It's like,
but how many is that? Like, what are your console options?
Right? Yeah.
I want like the tour. I didn't want a season 1, like this is your introduction to the characters. I wanted just like a pamphlet, a thick pamphlet on how Professor Xavier's school works.
Like that's I think the one thing that I didn't like about this book is that it felt like there wasn't enough. It's very short, and it jumps back and forth between these fights and this high school drama, but it doesn't focus on the fights. But the fights are in there enough that it takes away from the time that we could be spending on the drama and the relationships and stuff.
I think about the fights is that you're right. They don't spend too much time with them. It's not that many pages altogether, but it keeps cutting to these fights. Like there's parts of the book that are really choppy. It's like 2 pages here, 2 pages here, 2 pages here. And I'd like to just stick with something for a little bit longer.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of X-Men comics out there. So it's also one of those things that's like, well, this will get you started. And
here's your high-speed sampler platter.
Exactly. Yeah. I liked how Jean was also kind of the heart of the team.
Yeah.
Like I think between her and Iceman, like they were the ones that were like the heart of the team, in my opinion. Like Iceman was kind of the more like he didn't know he was, but he was kind of the like younger brother that was just there to have fun. Like he was more like the heart of the team in terms of morale.
Yeah, I think he could kind of tell that about himself, and he didn't like it. He's like, oh, dang, when you throw me into this situation, I am the little brother, aren't I?
Yeah.
Like he wants to be Warren, but Warren's already Warren.
Right? Yeah. And yeah, I forgot about all the stuff with Warren there. I don't like Warren is one of the X-Men characters that I don't know much about. And like I remember him being in like one of the X-Men movies, and there was that one scene where he jumps out the window and all that stuff. And yeah, so to see him in this was like, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit more of who Warren is. But I just don't know much about him. And so I almost forget that he's in this book, which I think also kind of speaks to his character. He's the like rich boy with almost no personality.
See, but I like Warren because I think he fits that like young girl model of like dreamboat material.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't know if he's that interesting of a character, but like pretty, has interesting secrets, has money, needs
has
your
wings.
help. Right, like he's young adult romance novel material, and that still resonates with me.
Oh man, because I know that they've done novelizations of comics or comic book movies. I know that they've done like just like original novels of like Marvel superhero characters and DC characters. I wonder if they've done like cheesy romance novel based off
I would
two of
love
the characters.
These. Or I just want like it's just a bunch of general ladies, just general, you are a 16-year-old girl, but with like all the boys. Here's your Warren Worthington romance novel. Here's your Nightcrawler romance novel. Here's your Beast romance novel. I like Beast quite a bit also. Yeah.
That'd be so much fun.
Really what I want out of this is a dating sim.
Hey, that's actually not a bad idea.
I know everybody loves that X-Men arcade game, but I want an X-Men arcade dating sim. I was going to go to the bar, get my nachos, and sit there and try and marry Angel.
That's actually not a bad idea. I really like that. That's great.
Right.
Marvel Games, are you listening right now?
I want to play
John
Full Boyfriend.
Drake over at Disney. Listen to me right now. You are working on Disney games. I know you have the connections. Make this happen. A Marvel dating sim. Amazing. Great stuff. Yeah, so we see Jean kind of go on this, like, I don't know, I would call it like a pity date, but it's not really. Lauren has this date that goes bad, and she's like, all right, let me cheer you up by kind of taking you out on this pseudo date thing.
How it goes is that Warren's parents still don't know he's a mutant. They have no idea. And like, Professor X kind of worked some mind magic on them. So they think they just sent Warren to a normal boarding school. Like, that's where he is. And they're still trying to like set him up from afar. They're like, you're going to go on a date with this other rich girl. And he goes on the date, and like the girl really likes him. And she's like, what if we go skinny dipping in my parents' pool? And he's like, I have to leave. I cannot take my shirt off. So he's telling this to Jean about how frustrated he is. And Jean does have a crush on him. And she's trying to like do like, you are my friend and I want to cheer you up. And this is what I'm going to tell you. But also I am hoping this does turn into a legitimate date. She's like, let's go to the carnival. And he's like, we should all go to the carnival together. And she's like, yes, invite the others.
Well,
fine.
He's like, yeah, that sounds fantastic. That sounds great. Yeah, let's actually go. I'll go get the other guys. And she's just like, okay, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they go to the carnival. They start to get to know one another. They run into the Blob as some chaos starts happening at the carnival. There's some normal humans there who are like, mutant freaks, blah, blah, blah. And a fight breaks out, and then Blob comes in, and he's punching people left and right. And then Professor Xavier steps in. He's like, all right, enough of this. We're going back to school. Typical hijinks, in my opinion there.
Bobby eats 5 snacks. Like panel to panel. It seems like the same continuous conversation, but he has a different hot dog or cotton candy or big pretzel in his hand each time.
Right? Like which is part of what makes him the younger brother. Like he's just starting to be at that stage where he's paying attention to girls, but it's still really just about the like food and video games and stuff like that. He's like, oh man, have you had their hot dogs though? It's great. I've beaten every video game in this place. And like he notices Jean. If I'm not mistaken, I think he makes a comment, or at least makes a comment that, hey, like, everyone here kind of likes her because she's the only girl. So
right. And I like that aspect of it, that you have these kids that have gotten used to the social situations where they are from, their friends, their school, where they fit in the social hierarchy, like what their relationship chances are with the people around them. And you pluck them all out and you put all of them in this isolated mansion together. And they have to figure out who they are now. Like, maybe Bobby was the super cute, charming one at his school, but you put him here and he just falls into that younger brother role, and he's really frustrated.
Lord
like,
Worthington
if I was
the
at
third.
home, he's like, if I was at home, I could have a girlfriend, but here there's one girl and she has better hots. Like, there's better boys than me now.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like that about him, because he's also like his going back to the fashion aspect. His is actually the one that I kind of noticed and couldn't place. Like he's
Bobby.
Like he's not the douchebag jock yet, but he's almost getting there. He wears a flannel in one part, so he has the like Pacific Northwest like grunge rock thing kind of going on. His hair's a little bit longer, like but he's not there. Like he's not what you would think of as and so it's just this weird mix of stuff of these all just seem like hand-me-downs.
You know who he is? Like, I keyed in on this really early. He's early Justin Bieber. Like, he's got that hair, that, like, long, straight, like, swoop of the hair, like, kind of down over his eyes, like the classiest version of a bowl cut you could imagine. He wears that flannel shirt, but it's purple. Like, that was Justin Bieber's thing at the beginning. His favorite color was purple. That was kind of how he branded himself. This is when he was, like, cute, shiny, nice boy pop idol. And I think that's kind of the aesthetic they wanted for Bobby.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I also don't pay attention to Justin Bieber or anyone like him, so it was just
I just remember this stuff from being in stores.
I can't put my finger on you. I don't know
that's
who you are.
I think. Well, that's what he read to me was like.
Okay, that fits.
Sweet boy idol. Yeah,
that fits. Yeah. That's him. I wanted to talk about Beast next, because I think that's like the third character you end up meeting. And we also see a lot of him too, and I liked the stuff about him that was in the book. I think his storyline, and especially his relationship with Jean, is a good one too, because they don't actually date. I think he's also one of the ones that he knows, like, hey, I don't have a chance here. And I recognize that, and I'm fine with that.
It didn't seem like he really had a crush on her. I mean, I think with all these boys, there is a recognition of, well, that's the girl here. We only have one girl so far. Who knows when we will get other girl?
I guess I have a crush on this one for now.
This is my option.
Yeah.
But to me, he came off as... I don't know if this was stated or if this is part of larger X-Men canon, but he felt like he was older than the other kids there.
Right.
And he definitely has this older brother feeling to him.
Yes. I definitely got that vibe. I also kind of got the vibe that the relationship between him and Jean was like, okay, we're going to be friends. We know that. And that's basically all it's going to be. But every once in a while, we might flirt and say something.
Yeah.
But that'll be it. And I was like, okay, that's nice. That's fun.
Yeah, which is a vibe I think has come across from the X-Men narrative at large. I think there are several characters that, because the X-Men are so like tightly joined together, and you look at them in the mansion, there's so many of them just on top of, not literally on top of each other, metaphorically on top of each other. Like, they're just
depends on which room you're looking in.
Yeah. But like, they're all such part of this tightly knit, isolated group. I imagine that a lot of them do have that kind of vibe of, well, I don't really like you, but I got to get my flirting out somewhere, and this is fun. Like, let's just give each other a little bit of flattering attention because we got to get it somewhere. Sort of like they try and fill like every social need for each other. It's like, we can't go into town and flirt with a barista, so just flirt with me.
Yeah. The thing that I like, because Beast ends up leaving the team for a short while. He's kind of fed up with just the way the dynamics are working, how there is this kind of relationship drama. He's like, this is kind of childish. We're not doing anything. But the thing that really does it for him is he is out with Iceman, because Iceman he's like, I think I found the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants hideout. And so he goes to Beast. He's like, let me show you this thing, because I don't think the professor will listen to me, but you're the like mature, smart one. If you say this stuff, like, that'll mean it's a big deal. So they go, they find it, and they see Professor X meeting with Magneto, and it looks like they're all chummy. Like, hey there, old chum. Which is totally something that they would say.
It's more like they are they're cordial to each other.
Yeah,
I'd say. And even that is startling for Bobby. Why are you two even talking?
Well, but Bobby never sees it because he's too concerned about food.
Right.
He's like, I have to go get more of these hot dogs.
This is what Hank is seeing spying in the window. Yeah, Bobby's getting a hot dog, and Hank is like clinging to the side of the building looking in a window.
Yeah. So he sees this meeting and he's confused. He feels like he's been lied to, that this whole thing is fake. It's all a ruse. This whole idea of like fighting for mutant kind so that we can live in harmony, and yet our leader is somehow working with our enemy. Like, that doesn't make sense. Something is not right here. And so he ends up quitting the team and storming off without saying a word. And he like gets an apartment in the city. I don't know how he got one that fast, but good on him. And Jean ends up coming to visit him, and they have this discussion of what happens, and their talk basically inspires Jean to be like, yeah, you know what, I actually think I like this school more than I thought, based off what we've said. Like, I'm proud to be an X-Men.
I do like what leads up to this, because Hank sees this. He sees Professor X meeting with Magneto. He goes to the mansion. He confronts Professor X about this, says he quits, storms off. And Jean is standing there, and Professor X turns around and says, well, I suppose I have to explain this to you now, don't I? And he tells her that Eric and I were old friends. We were like brothers once. I don't like what he does. I don't believe what he does is right, but I can't give up on my best friend. Yeah. Like, I'm still trying to get to him, and I feel bad it isn't working. So like, Jean starts to understand his perspective. And then she goes to talk to Hank, and she's like, Hank, you have completely turned your back on all of us after this. Professor X is still working on trying to help his best friend year after year after year. I'm on his side with this. Like, I think his is the better outlook right now. I'm proud to be on his team if this is what his team represents, never giving up on somebody.
Yeah. And that's what kind of inspires her to go back to the mansion and be like all gung-ho about the X-Men and stuff like that. But it turns out, we find out by the end of the book that also kind of inspires Beast to come back. She must have said something that struck a chord with him, and he had to think about it for a while. But he came back, and he kind of saved the day there for a bit. So that was neat to see. And when he does come back, he kind of positions himself to be like, hey, like, I'm a little bit more mature than these other kids. Give me a lab. Like, make me a laboratory. And so he has to sell all of his wine.
Right.
Professor X has a giant cellar full of wine, and he sells it all
and you
off.
know he's just drinking alone. He's the only one above 21 in that building, I think.
And and he ends up selling all his wine, and he makes this lab for Beast, and he's like, all right, sweet, this is fun. Now I can make stuff and experiment with stuff and help out that way, which is what he's always wanted to do. Like, I think even in the movies and the comics and stuff like that, like, he ends up going on to be like a senator, or he goes into politics or into like engineering, and he invents stuff. And things like that. And he likes that role. He likes helping out in that aspect instead of being like, I'm just gonna punch someone because I can punch someone. Yeah. So that's good. Let's move on to talking about Cyclops.
Yeah.
For a bit here, because we haven't talked about him yet. What did you think of Scott Summers?
I like what Jean says about him when she's confessing that she has a crush on him. She says, you never speak unless you have something to say, which is what I like about Cyclops, especially this version of Cyclops, is that he takes everything so seriously. Like, he wants everything to be done correctly. He wants everything to be done precisely. He wants to be the leader, not out of any kind of power hungry thing, just because he wants to be responsible. He wants to be sure he is doing the absolute most that he can and that he can be counted on. Like, it's his desire to be reliable, not his desire to be popular, that makes him want to be the leader. And he isn't bossy to them. He's only bossy to them inside the danger room. And then it's because he has created, simulated versions of them to boss around so that he knows if he has to do it in real life, he knows what he's doing and he's already practiced.
Right. Yeah.
I like that he is like, he wants to be the leader, but he is not bossy and he is so quiet and he is so reserved, but he knows how to play out 5 versions of every scenario. He just hasn't told anyone.
Yeah. He's definitely an emotional character. And he thinks about things like everything he does. He has to think and make sure it's right. Will this work out the best for everyone? Will this hurt someone? And I think as people have kind of figured out in X-Men comics in general, on one hand, that can make him emotional and whiny, and a lot of people don't like that. And then on one hand, they're also like, but he gets shit done. Like when he needs to, like he can get he can get shit done, and that makes him a good leader because he's actually considering all of the options and stuff like that. But I think we're at a point where he hasn't necessarily realized that yet, or like the value of his position. He just thinks he's there to fill a role, and he's trying to do the best job of that. And I think it's the conversation that he has with Jean, or I guess the conversation that Jean has with him, that like makes him realize that. I think that, on top of the moment that we saw in the danger room where Bobby stumbles on to like, hey, what are you doing with all of these replicas of us and bossing them around? And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't want you guys to see all of this stuff. But he's like, no, this is really cool. Actually, like, you're figuring out how to do this stuff, which I don't know if he said explicitly, but the idea that I got from it was just like, that makes it so that when we're actually out there, you know what you're doing, and that makes me want to listen to you more. That you are in here practicing this stuff. So you know what? Get rid of the Iceman like thing here in the danger room. Boss me around now. Let's make that happen. And
I like that among these other young people that have tumultuous relationships with others within themselves, they're all stressed out about romance and crushes and friendships and like their place in the larger social world. Like, Scott has a handle on something, at least. Like, he might, even if he's as socially inept as the rest of them, at least he knows how to do battle strategy. So they do, they agree. Like, you know what you're doing here. We want to take part in you knowing what you're doing. We want to be sure. If you boss me around, that makes me feel certain that I am doing the right thing for once.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to be told what to do because it's comfortable, and it's just like, okay, I don't have to think. I just need to do this one thing. But yeah, that was a good moment between him and Bobby, and I think that plus Jean being like, all right, snap out of it. Like, I have a crush on you now. So that was fantastic. But yeah, that end fight scene is kind of with Magneto, which I don't think they really get into it or not, but it looks like it was planned or like staged, but also maybe not, kind of. I don't know.
I don't know.
I that might be a stretch, but there's the scene where it all looks like it's about to be, falling apart, and Magneto has Charles Xavier basically by the neck, right? And they notice that Professor X almost has a smile on his face because the X-Men are starting to like come together and work as a team. And then I don't think we see the end of that fight. I don't remember, or if we see much after that. But it is this idea of like, I wouldn't put it past Charles to ask him, but like, hey, can you stage this? Can you help me teach them something? I oddly see Magneto saying yes to that.
Yeah.
Because Magneto also wants them to know how to fight and how to use their powers and stuff like that. Whether or not, he like that fight was not about them of like, hey, we should live in equality with humans. That was more about teaching them how to be a team. And regardless of who's teaching them that lesson, both Professor X and Magneto want them to know that stuff. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe. Conspiracy hat is on right now. But we'll see. It might have just been like, yes, you guys are working as a team. Now defeat him, my foe. So it was good. What did you think of that last fight?
That's an interesting take on it. I didn't really track that this was staged. I thought it was more of Magneto's going a little easy on the kids because he respects Charles and that those are Charles' kids. This is Charles' version of what he thinks is the best thing to do. And he's got at least, he's like, I will fight you on the fair field of battle. Me sneaking up in here, I'm not going to go all out on you. Like, that's not exactly fair. Like, he's holding back on principle. I do buy this version where Charles and him did work this out. That seems like something they would do.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
I think they're also at a stage where it's like Magneto doesn't want to kill these kids because they're kids. Maybe he can still recruit them. And so like I can see him pulling punches to be like, hey, one day you'll be on my team. See, I just beat up your teacher. That's why his teachings don't work. Join my side. Join the dark side. Join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which
I think
is a terrible name, but sure.
I think he is trying to make an example, like to make a point and not, decimate anything.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about another fight that's in this novel?
Sure.
Where there's flashes back to the Savage Lands, where they're like on top of a volcano and a dinosaur's coming to get them. And I know that this is part of X-Men canon. I know there's the Savage Lands. I know they go do things over there. I forget exactly what they are. But to look at that within the narrative of this particular book and to think about it like a newcomer, I can't see why Charles is like, hey, we found a weird dinosaur land, so I'm going to send you kids there. Like, I don't know what he thinks this is going to do for them. Like, they're not normally going to be fighting dinosaurs or like weird tropical threats. This doesn't do anything for their mission of let's show the everyday person that we are heroes. Like, I'm like, X-Men canon-wise, I know you have to check off Savage Lands, but I can't connect the dots between what it is doing in this story and why this Charles is like, yeah, go to the Savage Lands, kids.
Yeah.
I can't tell why this is helpful.
So I don't remember the name of the character. For some reason, I think it's Stegron. but
Stegron.
I don't think that's him.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to. Again, all of my knowledge of the X-Men comes from Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men.
Right.
There was an
we
X-Men
have the same
villain.
pool of knowledge. Yeah.
There was an X-Men villain early on that was a mutant that I think like turned themselves into a dinosaur or like went to go hide in the Savage Lands.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. I don't know. I don't think it's Stegron because I'm not really seeing anything about the X-Men in this one. I don't know. Let me see if I can type in like let's see. X-Men dinosaur. There we go. Sauron. That's it.
Sauron! Okay, this is a name I remember, yes.
Okay, so Sauron is a fictional supervillain appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. The character was created by writer Roy Thomas and artist Neil Adams and made his first appearance in the X-Men number 59. Sauron is the alter ego of Dr. Carl Lycos. After being bitten by a mutant pterodactyl, Lycos is transformed into a energy vampire, able to absorb the life force of others through touch. If Lycos absorbs the life force of mutants, he transforms into a humanoid pteranodon, gaining increased strength and speed in the process. Blah, 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 is often depicted as inhabiting the hidden prehistoric jungle of the Savage Lands. So they were probably fighting Sauron.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the actual case, but yeah, he looks like a pterodactyl with arms.
Oh, cool.
Weird characters. Comics are weird, man. They're so fun. So much fun. But yeah, that is, because that is the thing, that they don't explain these fights. It just like flashes back to these fights and maybe highlights a conversation that they had within that fight. And you don't really understand what's going on. So I didn't know why Magneto was on that ship at the start of the thing, or why they're in the Savage Land. So that seems strange. It just seems like, yeah, they're going on missions, whatever that might be. But okay, so this makes me think, like, the general mission of Charles Xavier is to prove that the mutants are there to help. Like, especially the X-Men are there to help. So they don't necessarily need to go fight other mutants or stuff like that, but just protect people and, like, stop, bad guys from doing bad things. So it could have just been like, hey, there's some weird doctor out in the Savage Land who's working on some strange experiments and stuff, and he's a danger to humanity.
I think if the fights we cut away to them fighting were more of these run-of-the-mill bank robber, just sort of street-level crime things that, like, you've seen enough of over and over again that you get what it is, I'd be fine with just dropping us in, not explaining it. It's all about, like, the rapport of the X-Men back and forth with each other while they're fighting this foe that doesn't really matter. But for these weirder ones, like the Savage Land, I would have liked a little bit more setup, like, where are we? Why are you here? Why did Xavier think this was important to do?
Yeah. Weird stuff. Again, comics are weird. They're so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about this book, because it's a a short one. It's pretty straightforward. There's not, time travel or 30 characters or stuff like that. It's just like, hey, there's like 6 people you need to know.
Yeah, there's no clones or like I'm your child from the future.
I'm the clone of your child from the future's past. I am your father's, mother's, brother's, cousin's, sister's former roommate. So what does that make us? Absolutely nothing, which is what you are about to become. Shout out to Spaceballs. Spaceballs is great. But yeah, I would recommend this book if you know nothing about the X-Men and want to check out something about the X-Men, or if you know someone who is interested in the X-Men and just wants a real simple, like, hey, here's a who's who origin story. Here's the most basic of basic origin story. One last thing I think we can talk about. Let's talk about the artwork. This is Jamie McKelvie on artwork. You kind of already mentioned the fashion, and that you thought it had some decent fashion in a way that was like, it's modern, but you can't really pin it on a certain time period.
Yeah, which I think keeps it, it's good at being contemporary and also timeless for like maybe a 20-year period.
Yeah. One thing I like about McKelvie's art is that the art style fits how clean and simple the story is.
Yes.
This is not marred in shadow. It's not some kind of like scratchy art style where you're like, what is going on in that panel? It's very clear. It's very concise, and it tells you what you need to know in each panel, and I really like that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, that gives the artist time to really kind of feel out what these characters look like and how they move. Like they actually look like people to me.
Yes.
I mean, it's not super realistic in how they draw these things, but it is more realistic than other stylizations. But it's a stylization that is like, these look like real people. Like, that is a believable look. That is a believable character. And I think that really is to the book's benefit.
And I noticed in particular, the Xavier kind of looks like Patrick Stewart, but I imagine most bald men, when simplified down to a drawing, may also look like Patrick Stewart. I felt like this Magneto did look like Ian McKellen, though.
He kind of did. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that style kind of alluded to the most recognizable versions of these characters that the average person may know, but it isn't like a direct, here I am drawing them. It's just...
Right.
It's Ian McKellen flavored. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in my mind, I'm thinking of like, new look, same great flavor.
Or like when you get a bottle of wine and it says like notes of oak and honey. You pick up this graphic novel, it just says notes of Stewart and McKellen.
Right. Good stuff. Well, we wouldn't know that though, because they sold all of the wine. So
we don't know.
You don't know what notes are in there. Melissa, if you had to recommend some stuff, if you were like, hey, I liked this, what else might I like? What would you recommend? This did make me nostalgic for X-Men Evolution, which I don't think I've seen in like 8 years. It's been a long time. Whenever the last time that thing was rerunning on Cartoon Network was the last time I watched some of it. I watched it on
and I don't know
Netflix, I think, a couple years ago. It was good.
Good to know it's out there. And like, I have no idea. I'm not quite well versed enough in X-Men to know how that compares to anything else in X-Men canon. I get the impression that it's kind of far out there and like throws a bunch of characters together
doing
that have
its
never
own thing.
been. Yeah, like, oh, those characters are not the same ages. Those people aren't related. Spike was entirely made up, I believe.
Right.
But I remember it being fun. I remember the character relationships being really charming. And like, I'm reading this comic book and the Blob comes out and I'm trying to remember who he is. I'm like, who's this big guy? It's not Juggernaut. There's another big guy,
big
right?
Blob
And I'm
of
like,
a character.
and I'm just searching my brain, and it's not until Magneto names him, like, oh right, I remember Blob from the cartoon now.
Yep, that's him. Good old Blob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that's a good one to check out, because that is also like an X-Men story that gets the gist and the like spirit of what the X-Men really is.
Yeah.
And does its own thing with it, right? I think that one, Kurt, is more of your in character.
Yes.
Which he was not in this book, but Kurt is a good
it's more
character as well.
Yeah, and it's more school focused, which I appreciated.
Mm-hmm. I actually wanted to recommend another book with art by Jamie McKelvie, The Wicked and the Divine.
Okay.
This is a book published by Image Comics, and it is. I've read the first volume, and that's it. It's kind of a murder mystery thing, but that kind of takes a backseat to this story that is like, hey, all of these gods that are out there, they kind of reincarnate every 90 years or so. And so people that you would consider like celebrities are often these gods and stuff like that. And it's a much more mature story than what this one is. I don't think it's a book you can hand to kids and stuff like that. But if you like some of that teen drama in a like story that is heightened by like, hey, here are these gods that have all these powers and can do all these different things, but they're also trying to like solve this mystery and stuff like that. That might be one you want to check out, and the art in that book is gorgeous. So absolutely go check it out.
Sounds good.
I would also, this is one I haven't gotten to yet, but if you want more like kids in a school with powers, or at least like learning to fight, maybe go check out Deadly Class by Rick Remender. I don't remember off the top of my head who does the art on that. Let's see. Deadly Class. Searching on Comixology. Here he is. Here we go. Oh, come on. Give me all of the info. Art by Wes Craig. There. But yeah, it's a school for assassins, and they're teaching these kids to learn how to fight and stuff like that. So, good stuff.
Yeah.
And I know there was a one season adaptation of the show on Sci-Fi.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Of that comic book into a show. And unfortunately, it got canceled, but I heard good things about the show. It was just that not enough people watched it.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are all the recommendations I got for now. Melissa, it is your turn to do the pitching. No, that's
it is. Okay. So my theme for this week is movies featuring activities we can no longer do thanks to coronavirus concerns.
Oh, God.
So I have a movie about international travel, a movie about sports, and inspired by our conversation in the last episode of Captain's Log, a movie about an orgy. I'm going to start with the orgy.
Go watch the captain's log from this past week. So good.
So pitch number 1 is Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Have you heard about this
movie? I figured it was this one. Right. I was like, I don't know many movies about orgies except that one scene in Eyes Wide Shut.
Right, it's this, or you go back to some like sword and sandals movie with like real hedonistic men eating grapes or something. The two kinds you have available to you.
Hedonistic man eating grapes. Okay.
My favorite subcategory on Netflix.
Right.
So Eyes Wide Shut. This is a movie that has been, and all 3 of these movies are ones I have not seen before.
Ooh, okay.
These are all things that have been on my to-watch list for a while. And I've always been intrigued by Eyes Wide Shut. This came out in 1999 when I would have been 9 years old, maybe 8, depending on what time of year it was. I remember hearing about what a nightmare this movie was to film, and I looked it up, and it did film for 400 straight days.
Yikes.
Which is the Guinness World Record holder for longest continuous film shoot. This was directed by Stanley Kubrick, who is notoriously an absolute demanding perfectionist in control of every single element that is on screen, down to the tiniest prop.
Stuff is so good, though. That's why it's so good.
Yeah, this was shot where he lived in England because, but it was set in New York City. He was apparently afraid of flying. This is something I didn't know. So he had to take parts of London and get them mocked up to look exactly like New York City.
Amazing.
He wouldn't just go there. So this is the plot of this movie. After his wife Alice tells him about her sexual fantasies, Dr. William Harford sets out for a night of sexual adventure. After several less than successful encounters, he meets an old friend.
Instead of doing it with his wife, he's like, okay, that's a great fantasy. I'm going to go do all that with someone else.
I was reading another synopsis where like she tells him, I've thought about having an affair, and he's trying to put himself in her mindset, like, could I have an affair? And he goes out on the town and tries to do it, to understand it. His friend tells him of strange sex parties when he is required to play the piano blindfolded. All the men at this party, he says, are costumed and wear masked. Harvard tries to find an appropriate costume, heads out to the party. Once there, he is warned by someone who recognizes him despite the mask, and he is in great danger. He managed to extricate himself, but the threats prove to be quite real and sinister. So I've always known this to be like a sexy movie, but also a weird, kind of a thriller, kind of spooky movie. I've heard all these assorted things about it, and I really want to see what actually is this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen that one in parts. Like, I've not seen the entire film. I remember one time I was making lunch at home, and it was just on our TV, and I saw some boobs. I was like, ooh, boobs.
Yeah.
What is this film? What are we watching?
Yeah.
Okay, pitch number 2.
Pitch number 1. Pitch number 2. This is a movie about international travel. This is Lost in Translation.
Okay.
This is a movie about Bill Murray, who plays a middle-aged, kind of past his prime movie star, who's not really getting any big roles in America, but he still has enough clout that he's offered an exclusive commercial deal in Japan for like a Japan-only commercial where he's like the spokesman for a whiskey. So it's about this man traveling to Japan to shoot these commercials and just the feeling of being lost there, of like not understanding what anything is about and feeling lonely. He's traveled there by himself. He's in touch with his family. He feels kind of confined by how much his wife is in touch with him. So he feels both too connected and too lost at the same time. And he meets up with Scarlett.
Too connected.
He meets up with Scarlett Johansson, who's staying at the same hotel as him. And she's a young woman whose husband is a photographer on assignment in Japan. And they're staying in Tokyo. He's doing things across Japan, so she's left on her own for a while. And it's just about these two people left on their own in this strange land who have nothing in common, but like find connection in each other because at least they both have these same cultural touchstones.
Interesting. Good stuff.
This is a movie I remember having like a lot of buzz about it. This came out when I was 13. I'm like, this is a real Oscar contender. This sounds interesting. I want to watch it. And my mom's like looking at the rating because I'm 13. She's like, this is R-rated and I'd rather you didn't. And I have not yet circled back to this movie in my adult life. Now that my mom isn't here to tell me I'm not allowed to watch something that says partial nudity on the box.
Man, you went from partial nudity to like, hey, here's a movie with an orgy in it.
And pitch number 3 is a family-friendly film, a family-friendly, extremely popular movie of our generation. This is definitely on my movies of shame list because, like, I don't know how I escaped never seeing this movie. I don't know how it happened to me. And one of these days, it's got to be time to rectify it. Maybe this is the week, Kyle. I watch Remember the Titans.
Oh, wow. You've never seen Remember the Titans?
I don't know how I haven't. I just haven't.
Man, that is the movie that in elementary school, in middle school, and high school that they would play in like all of my schools, because that like happened in the area that I grew up in. And in fact, my high school's scoreboard is in that film. There's like a scene where it just like it shows my high school's scoreboard. But yeah, that was a thing of just like, yeah, we're not gonna really do anything. Let's watch a movie. I don't know. Remember the Titans. It's just like, oh, we've seen this 23 times this week. Oh no.
See, I think I watched Finding Nemo over and over again. Like, we had our versions of that movie, but this was not one of them. I never watched it in school, and I never picked it up in my personal life.
We are landlocked. We've never seen the ocean. Let's watch a movie about the ocean.
Right. Yeah, this might be the difference.
Yeah.
Remember the Titans from the year 2000. And this is set in 1971 when two segregated schools close and merge into one integrated school. Denzel Washington is the football coach, hired over the successful white coach, and people are like, what's he doing here? And he's like, I'll show you. Let's all gather together as one beautiful multiracial team and beat the other team. I really don't know what else is in the movie. I don't know anything about it. I was looking at it on IMDb and I saw it as like a young Ryan Gosling. Yeah,
he's real young in that one. Oh man, this is a tough one because I think I was gonna do Eyes Wide Shut just because it was just like, oh man, orgy, like we just have to watch that one. And I don't think we've really covered a Stanley Kubrick movie on
we haven't
before, and he's a fantastic director. But I am just baffled at how you've not seen Remember the Titans.
I certainly could watch it now. It was a Disney or Touchstone film. I could watch it on Disney Plus right now. If you don't pick it, I could still turn around and watch it this evening. I mean, with all this time spent indoors, I could watch all these movies I've never seen.
I think we need to do Remember the Titans.
Okay, this will be interesting because I want your perspective as a local about this. I like the idea of I've never seen this and you've seen it 20 times and live in the same state where it takes place.
I also wasn't around when it was happening, so I don't really know it from. It's like,
you weren't there.
I was there that week when blah, blah, blah.
But you saw some of the same landmarks, which is close enough.
Yeah, or at least have heard about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next week is going to be Remember the Titans. But I think we should go ahead and start planning ahead for the next couple weeks, right? Because on the 29th, in 2 weeks, is that when we're going to be... It's like, this is 98, so 99. So in 2 weeks is going to be episode 100.
Yes.
And Melissa and I have kind of planned ahead and come up with an idea for what we can do for episode 100. back when we did the Whatnauts podcast, which is basically the first version of this podcast. For episode 100, Paul and I read Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud because we thought it would be funny that, like, after 100 episodes, we can read this book and finally understand what we've read.
It was an entertaining episode.
Yeah, it was a good one for sure. But here we are now, 100 episodes into the review show. And Melissa, you came up with the idea to kind of do a compare and contrast episode, but instead of doing, like, here's the comic book and its movie adaptation.
Yeah.
You came up with this idea to pit two different movies of the same genre that we think are the best of that genre.
Yes.
So you're like, we cover a lot of superheroes on here. We're gonna do superhero movies. We're gonna each pick what we think is the best superhero movie, and we're gonna talk about it. So, Melissa, what have you picked for episode 100, just to prepare people?
Well, it's been locked in for a while. This is definitely my top choice for the best superhero movie. It is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2.
There you go. And then in this corner,
who is your champion?
I think I'm going to go with Captain America Winter Soldier. That one is a favorite of mine, but I think I'll say my thoughts.
Okay.
Or episode 100 and why I picked that one. But yeah. So for episode 100, we're going to be watching Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi one with Tobey Maguire. And we are going to be watching Captain America Winter Soldier, which is also the second one in that series. Battle of the Twos. Yeah, so that should be fun. But one more thing you guys should know, over the past couple months, Melissa and I have been watching the Venture Brothers, and that has usually been reserved for the final Sunday of the month is when we record that, and it will come out that following Wednesday. And what we're going to be doing is our next Venture Brothers episode is going to be covering seasons 5, 6, and 7, and it's going to be in 3 weeks. It's going to be episode 101. So yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing for that. That's gonna be recorded on April 5th, and then virus willing, I'm going to be out of town that next week. So keep that in mind. There'll be more details down down the road. Next week, Remember the Titans. The week after that. Yeah. The week after that, episode 100 with Spider-Man 2, Captain America Winter Soldier. The week after that, Venture Brothers seasons 5, 6, and 7. It's a lot of stuff to remember, but we will keep reminding you guys on all of that stuff. So, that being said, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WILKYWIT.
You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. We are at The Whatnauts on Twitter if you guys want to stay up to date with all of our shows. I'm sure I will be tweeting out all of these updates that we just mentioned at some point. So be on the lookout for all of that stuff. Go like, share, subscribe. We could still use a couple more subscribers on YouTube. I think we're at 62 right now, which is nice. We have made it past 60.
We're over a hump. Very good.
Amazing. Yeah. So hopefully we can still get a couple more. That would be fantastic. That being said, this is episode 98 of the review show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. You guys know the deal. Leave a comment below if you guys have also read X-Men Season 1 and maybe something else you would recommend if people like this. What X-Men books would they like? In the meantime, also go subscribe to our channel, which is right up here in this corner. Go hit that button because that would help us out a ton. I think we're at like 62 subscribers or something, so we could use some more. And also go watch one of our other videos right down there. That'll help us out a ton. But until next time, bye.